Hey YouTube, welcome to Not Your Father's Finance, a channel that's all about finance but without the dull lectures and the boring stories and the big words. I am not here for that. Instead, I'm going to be sharing real life stories with you for myself and other really cool people that are doing something different financially than the old go to school, get a good job, work till you're 65 and then retire. I hate that saying. We don't like that here. If you're on that path, no shame to you or no diss to you, but really this channel is about opening your minds to other ways of thinking versus the traditional I have to work till I'm 65. There are other options for you out there, and I'm here to bring those options to you. To be completely honest with you guys, I do not have a finance degree. I didn't go to school for many years studying finance and all this good stuff. I just learned how to do it my own way, finding the information on podcasts or different YouTube channels out there to learn myself. And then I started realizing I love talking about it with other people. So we always started talking about investments and stocks and savings and retirement plans and all this stuff. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I also realized how bad of an issue, at least the United States has, about not being taught good financial practices in schools. And so a lot of people don't know about any of this stuff. And I'm still learning myself. Like, I'm gonna just put that out there. But I want to bring people that are experts in the field and things that I'm learning and things that I know work because other people have gotten them to work and have personally done it. There's so many people out there that can preach that they know about, what a stock is, what a bond is, and how to invest and all these different things. But just because you can talk the talk doesn't mean you can walk the walk. So I want people that have walked the walk, and that's a little bit me of my story. That's some of my friends out there and just people I'm meeting along the way. And that's who I want to bring to you to tell their story, what actually works. And then you can find something that works for you and your saving and investment and retirement plan. So what specifically you can expect from this channel is me to break down financial concepts into layman's terms. That's one of my other pet peeves, is that when we talk about finance, people are out there slinging big words around, and sure, it's like the lingo of financial world, but that doesn't mean it's easy to understand or comprehend to somebody that doesn't really know what's going on, myself included. And so I love breaking things down into actual terminology or definitions that you can understand and comprehend and act on those. So that's one of my biggest things for this channel, is breaking down concepts into layman's terms. Also talking about my FIRE journey, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. Like I said, I'm not here for the retirement at 65. I'm hoping to do it way before then. And that doesn't mean that I don't want to work forever. It just means that I want to be financially independent so I can choose how to spend my time and my money before then. And honestly, the other thing you would expect with this channel is me asking a lot of inappropriate questions about finances. Another one of my big pet peeves, which I guess I should have just put in a pet peeve list and just went off, is people not talking about financial concepts or their own finances. I think that the less we talk about it and the more we hide, again, this old school way of thinking, like I shouldn't dare ask you how much money you make and I can't ask you how much your house is and just all these things. I think it's important to talk about finances, because if you don't know sometimes if you're behind or you're ahead, or behead. That's a fun word. Maybe I'll define that sometime. But you just don't know where you're at. And so I think it's just really important to have these open conversations, especially when you're learning about it. Like, I'm not asking how much your house is to be rude or how much you're paying for rent to be rude. I'm genuinely curious, and it's not to be like, oh, I wonder how much they make and how much they can afford that. It's just like, even like geographically, how much does rent cost in different areas of the US or abroad? Same thing for houses, and I just think that's really interesting information to have. And if I can ask enough people all over the US or all over the world, how much rent is or how much a house is, that way I can learn to save money if I want to go to Mexico and live a little bit cheaper versus living in New York City, for example. So to try to keep this short and sweet, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on myself, because you're like, who the hell are you? And so I'm just going to give you a quick background, why I'm interested, what have I done financially to make you want to follow this channel, and so forth. So I was always very money conscious growing up. The first time I really remember is when I was like 6, and my dad left a tip on the table after a restaurant, and I thought he forgot his money. And so I picked up the money and I was like, Dad, you forgot your money. And I told him like 15 minutes later, and he was like mortified. So we had to turn the car around, like go back to the restaurant and give this woman her tip for waiting on us. And that was the first time I learned what a tip was, but the first memory I have of like really being money conscious, of like, oh no, he forgot his money, we need that money. From there, all throughout like elementary and high school, I guess, I always had odd and end jobs, whether it was babysitting and picking up pine cones in my yard, being a lifeguard, a water swimming instructor, and then eventually a janitor at the post office. I was always having little odd and end jobs and saving as much money as I could. My dad's worked at a bank for over 35 years, and so right when I was born, they opened up a savings account for me. And so all throughout high school, I would make all this money, not tons, until I got my janitor job that actually did pay pretty good. But we would get all this money and then I'd have them deposit it for me, and I loved getting that slip that was like, your bank account balance is going up, and just like seeing how much was in there as I grew it and grew it. So when I left high school to go to college, I had around $10,000 saved up and ready to go. I thought about blowing on a Jeep Wrangler, and then I saved it, thank God, and I studied abroad, which is a life-changing story in itself. So after 4 years at Iowa and then 2 years at the University of Kansas to get my master's in speech language pathology, I graduated debt-free, and that is thanks to my parents for insisting and working their butts off their entire lives to be able to afford my education and make sure I graduated debt-free so I didn't have to do what they went through. I worked for about a year and a half being an SLP, and during that time I worked every job I could. I worked on the weekends, I worked multiple jobs in a day to get as much money as I could saved up in a short year and a half time period. On top of working as much as I could to make as much money as I could, I also kind of started developing a minimalistic lifestyle. I restricted like eating out to once a day. I didn't go shopping. I sold a lot of my belongings and made a couple $1,000s that way. And making more money and lowering your expenses really goes well together. So I ended up saving $50,000 in that year and a half time span, and I decided to invest half of it and take the other half and go on this world trip, or this year trip around the world with Remote Year. So that is the Cliff Note version of my history. I'm happy to make a longer version if you'd be interested, so you can either comment like hell yes or hell no or whatever you want to below if you would like to hear it or if you would not like to hear it. But I will just be making these videos all over the world or all over the US because I am still nomadic and I don't have a permanent home anywhere. So right now I'm at my sister's place in Omaha, Nebraska, and you'll see a few videos from here. So that is what I wanted to bring to you, is people with different stories than mine or similar to mine, or just from all walks of life, and figuring out how they are doing their finances. Some might be the traditional way, or some, might be this new FIRE method that I'll talk about in the next video that is about trying to retire as early as possible, oftentimes in your 30s or 40s. I think the most important thing to remember is there isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. Whatever you hear might not work for you, but if you can piece together people's different stories and say, well, that piece will work for me and this piece will work for me, you can figure out your own financial journey that way. So if that sounds of interest to you, consider subscribing to my channel so you never miss out on a weekly video. Also, if this was helpful and you think this channel could maybe help others, share it with others, or hit that thumbs up below because that helps more people see it. I hope you have an awesome day, and if you made it to the end of the video, congrats to you. Put $5 in your savings account and do something for yourself today. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time on Not Your Father's Finance.